I will be honest that it really does break my heart when it comes to what's been happening with everything related to the Star Wars franchise, to the Indiana Jones franchise, and what's looming for the James Bond franchise as well. And this is just the beginning. It seems like a lot of people out there like Disney and Lucasfilm are just relentless with this, and they just don't want to stop at all costs. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and let's get right into the subject. Now, like I just said before, there are franchises that are not a part of Disney that are beginning to follow the same route that Lucasfilm has gone through with the Star Wars universe and the Indiana Jones franchise and more. Now, we know that Phoebe Waller-Bridge, we've talked about her endlessly, and that she is, quote-unquote, considered the star of this film, and how she's also moving on to Tomb Raider, which I don't believe is a coincidence at all in the slightest. The fact that she's doing I believe a Tomb Raider series, specifically, is what it is for Amazon. I think that she saw this opportunity for Indiana Jones, and Kathleen Kennedy gave it to her, and used that as a stepping stone for her acceptance for entering into the Tomb Raider franchise. There's no doubt about it. I believe that's exactly why she stepped into the Indiana Jones franchise. But let's get right into what's been going on with Steven Spielberg really admitting something very much crucial involving Kathleen Kennedy behind the scenes of Indiana Jones 5 and more. So, without further ado, right now, those like Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Kathleen Kennedy are endlessly trying to save Indy 5 and its box office numbers by improving the promotion of the film in a desperate attempt. However, recently Steven Spielberg got on the subject of Kathleen Kennedy and her work on Indy 5 and delivered the following. When we were working on the Dial of Destiny, I will come to admit that there were many creative roadblocks that we kept on hitting throughout principal photography. Much of this had to do with Kathy Kennedy and her vision that she wanted to witness on the big screen. We went through multiple endings, and it was a very rough process since Kathy really was undecided in multiple scenarios. This got in the way for us big time when working on this film, and it really put us into many setbacks. We could have wrapped this film earlier if Kathy wasn't undecided on the ending and how big of a role Helena was going to be. I will never forget, about midway through shooting, Kathy came up to me and said, "Let's give Helena a backstory," and that she and James were talking it over. We did that last minute, and I really thought it was a bad idea because it was going to go off script at many times. So, again, guys, let me pause here quick. About Steven Spielberg, look, I know that this guy is the executive producer of Indy 5, so I'm a little surprised that he is throwing Kathleen Kennedy on the bus, blaming her for some of the creative issues, as well as going off script many times, and really putting all the fingers on her, pointing fingers at her, for creating the Helena backstory. And guys, we've talked about the Indy 5 spoilers. There is a Helena backstory in this film. It kind of tacks on around 20, maybe 30 minutes tops, give or take, of the entire movie. Without the Helena backstory, this movie could have been at least having a decent running time, but that kind of drags things out. So that's basically their plan, is that they want to explore Helena as much as possible, and this was Kathy's idea to kind of set things up for a actual sequel. Now, we know that Mangold wants nothing to do with an Indy 5 sequel. He's been very much forward about this, very much apparent about that, and I think a lot of it has to do with he just doesn't want to deal with the Indy 5's the failure looming, box office-wise and fan reception-wise. He doesn't want to deal with that again. He may not admit that, but that's most certainly what it's all rooted down to. So, let's kind of go into this further about what Spielberg is exposing. So, he goes on to elaborate. So, some of the dialogue I felt was just messy because of Kathy's eager energy to really spend an extra 20 to 30 minutes exploring the depths of Helena's story. I said this is INDY's show, and we couldn't depart from that too much. It was the main thing that worried me about this film for sure. Many of our setbacks has to do with Kathy's undecided vision, and I think we would have had a smoother ride if we just stuck to the script and kept the ball rolling, with Mangold's story for sure. So many things were improvised, and changes are as well toward the third act. That I can confirm. I have said this before, but I fully agreed with the ending for this movie, or disagreed, I should say, for the ending of this movie, so I hope generally it is somewhat well received, he says. So, what's interesting about that is that he has a lot of concerns about this film. Now, he's been very open about Indy 5. He supports this movie through and through. He likes it. He just doesn't like the ending. And he's been very much forward about that. He's put that on the spot. And to really put things short, what he's really scared of is what Kathleen Kennedy did by adding on a lot of running time for Helena's backstory. Now, again, the Indy 5 spoilers that we went over here is that it does explore her time with Teddy, who is one of the other characters that you saw in the Indy 5 clip where you had that horrible CGI chase. We've talked about that too, how they really were dialing back, no pun intended again, on the amount of revenue, or the amount of money I should say, going into the CGI work of this thing, as well as the deepfake technology. There's a lot of shots in this film where the deepfake reportedly is not well established, let's just put it that way, where even the mouth does not sync up with the dialogue. That's pretty pathetic in my opinion, and it's kind of on par with how they really kind of dial back a lot of money on the Kenobi series and why Hayden looked old in specific shots in the Kenobi show for the Clone Wars flashbacks. You have to look carefully, but it's there. So, what's interesting about this too is that Spielberg, it sounds like he's becoming a little bit more honest as we near the release date of this film. And you know what? I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, yeah, they were banking on Hollywood critics to be more lenient, to be more, I guess you could say, catered to raving about this movie, and it turned upside down. It ended up being the complete opposite, and they did not see that coming. So even the critics that you would think would rave about this movie are very lukewarm about Indy 5, and that is a very bad sign. The fact that we also have I'm sorry, I have to laugh about this. The fact that we also have Indy 5 as a part of promotion for if you get, I believe it's an Applebee's dinner or something like that, or an entree, you get a free ticket to Indy 5. Any movie that usually does that, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them that have done that, have failed. And again, to be very clear, not all, but many that have done that have come to become a very big failure. So, anyways, had to put that out there. I would love to hear your take on this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. From night to moon, we hear them moans again.